Have Newt Gingrich with us. How are you, Newt?
I'm doing great. How are you? I'm calling you from Des Moines, Iowa.
You having fun today?
Yeah, it's interesting business.
All right.
Lots of good people out here. We've been in Dubuque, and then we were over in Cedar Rapids. Tomorrow morning we'll be up in Mason City, where I'm going to sign the pledge to repeal Obamacare.
All right, I want to give you an opportunity in a back and forth here to discuss this, which I'm sure you've been doing all day. Now, I'll play the part of the clip that has become controversial, and I think it is controversial, on Meet the Press. By the way, David Gregory, whenever you're up there with David Gregory, everybody has to be careful. I believe the man has an outrageous agenda, and that includes his implication of racism on your part, which was disgusting. Now, putting that aside, I want to get to this, because I do have a bone to pick with you on this. Go ahead, Mr. Producer, cut one.
I don't think right-wing social engineering is any more desirable than left-wing social engineering. I don't think imposing radical change from the right or the left is a very good way for a free society to operate. I think we need a national conversation to get to a better Medicare system with more choices for seniors.
Now, isn't that what we're having? He's put out a proposal as part of his budget. The Republicans voted on it. The Senate hasn't taken it up. The president's not going to sign it. We have an election between now and then. He's talked about what his plan is. His plan is to protect anyone who's 55 and over with Medicare. Those under, we're talking about vouchers. He returns $500 billion to Medicare that Obama took out. What is your bone with this?
Well, my bone is that, first of all, I was asked the question, would you vote now to put it into law? You just made the same case. This bill has not had real hearings. People haven't gone through an adversarial process. We haven't had a discussion at a level that normal, everyday Americans understand it and appreciate what its implications are. There are a whole series of things here. I praised Paul Ryan's budget. I wrote a newsletter supporting Paul Ryan's budget in general. It's the right general direction. I think trying to think through how to take on Medicare is a good idea. I chaired the Medicare Reform Task Force of 1996, and we reformed it with a liberal Democrat in the White House while keeping AARP neutral because we were very, very careful. And so what I'm trying to say is, first of all, if you looked at what happened with Obamacare last year, and you go back and just listen to what I said, I don't believe either side should try to impose on the American people something the American people haven't thought through.
But, well, no, nobody's imposing anything. The way the process works, hold on, the way the process works is we have the House. The House Republicans propose a budget. They supported it. It's being debated out in the streets where you are in Iowa. It cannot be adopted. That is the Medicare changes with this president in office. You're going to be debating it. Everybody's going to be debating it. We're all going to vote.
Right.
So what? Because it doesn't go through three committees? Nobody's paying attention to the three committees. It's not like Obamacare, Newt, where they controlled everything, they rammed it through, and there was no discussion. There's plenty of discussion going on now.
And my point was, you need to have the discussions both ways, not just go sell it. You need to listen to people's concerns. You probably need to modify it in significant ways. And by the time you pass it, you need to make sure you have a substantial majority that agrees with you. Now, I think that's how a free society is supposed to work. And I think the job of those of us who are proposing change is to make sure that the American people ultimately understand the change, approve the change, and will support the change.
All right, but I've read the Constitution. I'm a student of the Constitution. We don't just go on talk shows or town hall meetings or diners and say, hey, I have a bunch of ideas. You have a formal process. It's been proposed. We have an opposition party that's trashing it. We're going to have elections for members of the House and the Senate and for president. Among other things, this is going to be discussed. Now, if you have a different idea, I mean, of course you should be able to voice it and say, you know what, I have a different idea. But Ryan's not proposing a right-wing social engineering. I happen to know that phrase. I'm a big fan of Karl Popper's, who kind of made that phrase popular about piecemeal social engineering and utopian social engineering. This isn't social. He was talking about Marxism and socialists and the hard left. This isn't social engineering. This is legitimate Burkean reform effort.
Right. And it is a reform effort of what is in many ways the largest single program in the federal government that affects every single American, and that ought to be approached very carefully and very cautiously. And look, if we can go through this process and we can come up with a bill that people understand and support, I'm all for passing it. I mean, I helped pass the largest entitlement reform of your lifetime, welfare reform. By the time we were done, we had 92% support for it, including 88% of people on welfare, because we'd won the argument about what had to be done. And I was
I'm looking at poll. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was asked a specific question by David Gregory about a particular point in time where, as he put it, the polls were against it. My only point is, I don't know that we want to try to pass a very, very large reform until the American people actually understand it and support it.
But they're going to better understand it than they've understood anything in 50 years based on the way that the American people are engaged. In fact, we owe Paul Ryan a thank you, because by proposing it, now we're debating it. You're debating it. We're all debating it. The American people are well aware of this. They're not aware of the commission in 1996 or this one in 83 or this or the other. Unlike ever before, we're poised. We're ahead of the politicians. So what do you propose?
Well, first of all, Mark, I praised Paul for offering the budget. I wrote a newsletter supporting the budget he offered. I have said what he's doing is extraordinary leadership. I am for the dialogue you and I are now having. And I think that if the Republicans go to the country, not just to sell the current document, but to start with this document as a beginning and to listen to the American people and listen to all the different folks who'd like to participate, that we could, in fact, produce a reform that would be truly dramatic and would have the overwhelming support of the American people.
Well, that's all well and good. We all get to participate when we vote. That's the point. Other than that, I'm not sure what we mean. Are we supposed to travel the country? And, I mean, they do have their town hall meetings. They have offices. People contact them. We have elections. We make decisions. I mean, what other participation are you talking about?
Well, I would think on something of this scale that you would want to do a fairly large number of hearings and a fairly large number of meetings, because you're talking about what would be the largest single reform in the entire government. And I simply think, all I'm suggesting to you is, look, I had a 70-year-old guy stand up today in Cedar Rapids and say to me, I'm 70 years old, I'm really worried, is my Medicare safe? Now, I reassured him, of course it's safe. Of course it's going to be fine.
It's not safe. That's the problem.
His Medicare isn't safe?
No, I have a report here from the trustees, and today the chief actuary of Medicare said it's even worse than these trustees are saying. So, you know, I have a father who's 86 years old and a mother who's 80, and I tell them, you know what, you're going to get your Medicare, but the truth is some guy who's 65, if we don't clean this damn thing up quickly, he's not going to get it. I'm just reading their own report here.
All right, so you say, what would you have said to the 70-year-old?
We have some ideas, and we need to take absolute attention. No, hold on. I would have said, I like the Ryan proposal. If we can take the Senate and the presidency, that would be the core of my reform proposal. I mean, you may not agree with it. And in doing so, we will protect you. We will protect people 55 and older and future generations. We will do everything we can to have integrity and to do things within our conservative principles. And as much as related to the free market as possible and state authority as possible. But this will not affect you. But we have a big program that we need to save so it doesn't suck the entire society into the tubes. That's just me, but I'm not running for president.
Well, I think what you just said is fairly reasonable. Now, you start shaping a bill.
I'm rarely called reasonable, so thank you.
Yeah. I know, it's seldom happens, but why not make your evening or confuse you, depending on how you want to take that comment, Mark. But my point, all I'm saying is, I've been at this stuff for 9 years. I helped found the Center for Health Transformation. I am deeply committed to fundamentally transforming Medicare. I think it is possible to do it. I think Paul has started a good process. And had I been asked a question about whether he had started a process, I would have lavished praise on it. All I said was we shouldn't ram it through. Now, I think most Americans, having just lived through being furious at Obama, would agree. You're saying to me it won't happen. But that wasn't the conversation I was involved in. And maybe
I know, but Newt,
yeah, go ahead.
I think if that's the problem, you need to say to these guys, humbly may I say, you know what, David Gregory, that's not what I'm saying, or let me finish, because the guy was obviously out to screw you. My point is, this is not Obamacare, where they have a supermajority, where everything's being done in secret, where they're passing things that are 2,700 pages long and so forth. This is out there for everybody to read. It's going to languish for months and months and months. You're going to be debating, running for president with others, and Santorum and Bachmann and the rest. I can't remember, but you'll be asked about it. It'll be debated. We voters are going to get to vote for people based on whether or not they support it in whole or part or have other ideas. Let us not pretend that what's being done now is Obamacare under Pelosi, because it's not. We're having a national conversation about it right now. Not just you and me, but there's all kinds of people talking about this. This is a good thing.
All right. So you can give me one strike for having allowed David Gregory to frame a question I should have simply ignored. I accept that.
I'm not here to score points at all. I'm trying to be.
Okay.
My goal is to try and, because I was going to come on and talk about it. Your folks contacted, and you know what? We weren't going to take any candidates, but I said, you know what? It's not fair if I start getting into this, and you're not here to talk about it. So.
No, and I'm grateful. Look, and I'm committed to finding a way to help getting a Medicare reform bill that moves in the general direction that Paul Ryan's trying to get to. I think it has to be more comprehensive than where he is right now. I think he has started that conversation. I've said publicly over and over again that he is a remarkably bright guy and has shown great courage in the budget. And all I'm calling for is that this not be a yes or no, this be a beginning, and that we are able to talk through and improve and modify the bill and move in a direction to see if we can get a bill which the vast majority of Americans will conclude gives them a better future.